Steve here with Table Rock Tea Company. Today we are doing a product feature video on one of our teas that we call Happy Tract. This is a very special tea to me. It was something that I took great pains to formulate, and I wanted to explain a little bit about it to you. I have to be a bit careful on how I do this. Many of you know that I'm an RN. I have a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. I've been a clinical practice nurse in the operating room for over 30 years. Hard to believe, but yeah, been a long time. And I take medicine very seriously. I am as Western medicine as you can possibly get, working in my environment. However, my background before going into nursing was in plant biology at Virginia Tech. And so I kind of have this eclectic view. We've spent 10 years or so in the mission field, going to 30 or so different countries all over the world and dealing with developing countries and really remote villages where they don't have access to medicine and things like that. So that's where herbal medicine and Western medicine really come together. So I feel like I bring a good balance to the side of herbal medicine. As a tea company, we co-pack for about 50 other tea and herb companies across the country. We mill, we do blending, that kind of thing. And so we deal with so many ingredients. We deal with a lot of herbalists. And I'm always filtering through things saying, hey, you can't say it does this, or, you know, you got to be careful of this side effect or whatever. So I'm very careful when it comes to herbal medicine. That said, I also have to be careful on what I say here on this channel, on our product information, because of FDA, USDA, all those guidelines on what you can and cannot say. So, disclaimer, if you have any of these issues that I'm talking about today, consult your physician, of course. We are not recommending a course of treatment, blah, blah, blah. You know all the legalese that's involved with that. That said, this is a tea that I was very proud of, and I specifically formulated this tea to address issues of the GI tract, in particular, gastric reflux and irritable bowel syndrome. So you may know some people, or you may suffer from those things yourself. I do not, but as I was studying the way I study systematic medicine and herbal medicine, this formula started to appear, started to make sense, and I started synthesizing it together. We did what I call a clinical trial, but not like an FDA clinical trial. Whenever we do an herbal medicine, we always try to be very responsible. We want to make sure we're not selling anybody snake oil. And so we want to make sure that what we set out to do is actually effective. And so this was no different. We gave samples to, I think, 25 different people that were suffering from IBS or gastric reflux or both. We gave them a 30-day sample and a survey to send back at the end of that to tell us what they thought. The results of that were staggering to me. What this did, I had expected that this tea would be more of a palliative, in the sense that people that were suffering with this kind of condition, those kind of conditions, would take it daily and maybe they'd see some improvement slowly over time. Instead, the feedback we got was pretty radical and pretty fast, to the point where some people even said that their GERD went away in 10 minutes, you know, things like that. I've taken it myself when I have had GI issues, and it's pretty amazing. The taste of it's going to taste kind of, it'll have some mint overtones and it'll have some licorice overtones, and I'll explain why, and I'll explain the ingredients. I'll explain what each ingredient does, why I put it into this formula, so you can kind of have a better understanding of it. So I'm not huge on the taste. I'm not. I like black tea with cream and sugar. You know, that's kind of my thing. So, but a lot of people really like this. Some people have said that it actually helps them sleep. Wasn't intended for that. I am coming up with a sleep aid tea in the future. I've got some tricks up my sleeve there. But let me explain to you what is in Happy Tract. And I'm going to read it, so pardon me not looking at the camera here. But Happy Tract has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ingredients. It's actually a very expensive tea for us to make. So you'll kind of get in this video an understanding of how I formulate an herbal medicinal. And I hope that gives you some insight even as you're formulating at home. And I don't care that people that I'm telling you the recipe, I'm not telling you the ratios. The ratios are really where the magic happens. But let me explain what's in here first of all, and you'll see why it is important for the GI tract. Now understand one other thing before I read off this ingredients list and what they do. In my current position, I still work in the hospital in general surgery. I am involved in a lot of endoscopies, so colonoscopies, EGDs, looking up, looking down, as we say. So I have the benefit over a lot of herbalists in that I actually know what the inside of the GI tract looks like. I've been assisted in colon resections and all that kind of stuff. So as I was formulating this together, a lot of it just made very good clinical sense to me, where a lot of other people in the herbal space would not have that kind of experience to draw from. So first ingredient on this list here, German chamomile. So what German chamomile serves as, it's an anti-inflammatory, an antispasmodic, and an antimicrobial, especially for H. pylori, which, as you know, is part of what causes ulcers and different things like that. We test for H. pylori when we do biopsy samples, when we look down your throat with an EGD. So when I say any of these things that it does, it's specific to the intestine, to the colon, to the bowel, to the esophagus. The anti-inflammatory, of course, takes away the inflammation. Antispasmodic on German chamomile basically slows down the gut, so that queasy feeling, that kind of thing. And then, of course, the antimicrobial property, dealing with that's going to cause those issues with GERD and gastric reflux, and ulcers. After that, licorice root. So that serves as a sweet mucilage. So what it does is it coats the GI tract. It does also sweeten the overall recipe. I don't know if you know this, but licorice is 100 times sweeter than sugar. You got to be careful how you use it. But I'm going to pair licorice root. I'll tell you kind of how I used the licorice root in this formula with another coating thing. Essentially, what I was trying to do was deal with the whole GI tract. As this formula was coming together, I realized that there was something that I could do that would not just do upper and wouldn't just do lower. I could do a combination for both. So the licorice root is a coating, so it kind of repairs that GI tract lining, so to speak. I paired that with slippery elm, which is also, it helps to prevent and repair ulcerations. And so the way those are paired together on a molecular level, the slippery elm is a big molecule for coating. So I try to tell people like this: if you kind of picture your, actually I got a great example. Don't hate me because I'm doing this in an herbal medicine video, but I'm pulling out a box of cheese balls, or a jar of cheese balls. But all right, let's say this jar is your stomach lining or your GI lining. So this whole layer, the molecules in the slippery elm would be like these cheese balls. They're kind of big, right? So we put that on there and it does this coating, right? The licorice is like as if I were to pour sand in there and shake it up. So it makes it a much more dense, more intact, protective coating, so to speak. So that's how those two things work together. Who'd have thought cheese balls would work their way into the video? But that's how those things work together, and that's pretty cool. So chamomile, licorice root, slippery elm. The next thing is fennel seed. So fennel is a classic, it's a carminative. So it's an anti-gas. So that gas, burping, farting, bloating, that kind of thing, the fennel seed takes care of that. It reduces gas and bloating. You'll see in the Middle East, a lot of times they'll have bowls and restaurants of fennel. People pick it up and chew it. Not so much here in the US. But the fennel greatly reduces gas, which of course is, part of those conditions. You're burping, it's upset, all of the pressure, that kind of thing. After that, peppermint. Peppermint is an antispasmodic and it's a mild analgesic. So it takes, basically it calms the GI tract. That's why peppermint helps you reduce nausea. But it also is a mild analgesic, so it takes away some pain. And you can kind of see that if you ever chewed peppermint, you can kind of feel that sort of analgesic property to it. So it basically helps settle your stomach. After that is yarrow. We use the yarrow flower. The yarrow is a mild anti-hemorrhagic. So what it does is it stops the bleeding from small ulcerations. And if you get the opportunity to look at a colonoscopy or inside a colon, sometimes you'll see, especially in an EGD, little tiny ulcerations. So yarrow is not going to stop some massive bleeding ulcer, that kind of thing. But what it does do is it kind of coagulates, repairs those little tiny ulcers, like pinpoints that might be all throughout your GI tract. So that's part of that. Now the next two are also pears as well. The next two are rosemary and ginger. Now here's the thing. So rosemary, well, let me start with ginger. Let me start with why I did ginger. So ginger root is a very strong antiseptic. It's an antibacterial and it's an antiparasitic. In particular, again, the antibacterial property is what I'm going for, but with some stomach things, you may have parasitic conditions. It's a very strong anti-parasite, in particular, fish-borne parasites. Now, no one ever told me this kind of thing. I've come up with this myself, and you can fact check me and see if maybe I've stumbled onto something here. But for those of you who eat sushi, my theory is that the reason that they serve ginger with the sushi, that pickled ginger, is for this very reason. That ginger is a very strong anti-parasitic, particularly for fish-borne parasites. So it would make sense to me that if you're eating raw fish, if you're in that kind of culture, that hey, you eat this ginger root and it will, decrease the chances that you'll get these fish-borne parasites. Gradually that made its way into culture and tradition and that kind of thing, and now we see it on our plates of sushi. That's my theory anyway, we'll see. But make your comments below. Now here's the issue with ginger. Ginger is what we call a very hot herb. So, it's spicy, it's pungent, that kind of thing. And so for something that we're trying to work with a GI formula, that was kind of like a catch-22 to me. I wanted all the properties of it, but then we had this huge, hot, overwhelming spice part of it. So I paired that with rosemary because rosemary is a mild antiseptic, mild antibacterial, but it's much more cooling. If you've ever just eaten rosemary and eat ginger, you can see one is hot, one is cold. So what I basically did was used something in the rosemary to supplement and enhance the effects of the ginger while also cooling it off. And so that's how I came up with this formula. So this is a very thoughtful formula. It took a while. I actually nailed the ratios on the first pass, which I was really happy about. This is a great big seller. And again, I'm not making any medical claims here. I can't. I can just tell you how I formulated it and why I formulated it. Either way, it's going to make a nice tea. It's non-caffeine, so it's not going to keep you up at night. It's not going to do any of that stuff. So yeah, so happy Tract. Pretty cool picture. I'll show you this graphic. That's my dog Jasmine as a physician giving a little medical lecture to the little woodland animals. I thought Travis did a great job on that. So anyhow, if you go to our website, you can pick it up. You can pick it up, of course, on our farm here. And that's it. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to answer or comment below. Thanks again for watching. Stay tuned to see what else is brewing here at Table Rock Tea Company.